everybody.
Hi, welcome to Living Overseas on a Dime. I'm Noel.
I'm Jenny.
Yeah, and here today we're going to talk to you about living and retiring in Puerto Escondido, Mexico.
Yeah, we thought we'd make a video. We haven't done a straight talk on Puerto Escondido yet, and we're just going to talk about the pros and cons and what we thought about it.
Yeah, there's lots of videos out there on Puerto Escondido, mostly as a travel destination. So we wanted to give our take after living there for about a month and our opinions in relation to living there long term and retiring. So first we'll start by talking about the pros of Puerto Escondido, and there are quite a few.
Yes. The number one thing, you talk to anyone about Puerto Escondido, the first thing that comes to their mind is beaches.
Oh, yeah.
And we agree. And that's kind of why we wanted to go there anyways. Me and my son, we love the ocean. And when we were watching videos originally, the beaches is what caught our attention. And if you talk to anyone, it's a major beach destinations.
Yeah, the beaches are beautiful there. There's no question they have the beautiful rocks coming down to the ocean. Mm-hmm. And there's quite a few different types of beaches too. There's the big, long, open beaches where there's almost at least 100 meters wide of sand.
Yeah.
Where there's lots of surfing and whatnot. And then the kind of smaller beaches that are more suitable for swimming, we think.
Yeah, I think there's in total, if you look at the map, probably around 8 major beaches that you can hit. We pretty much went to 4 regularly, and we just rotate. But there's lots of beaches that you can hit. Really beautiful. A big pro for us was that a lot of the beaches had natural shade.
Oh, yes.
Which is great. You go to a lot of beach destinations and you have to rent an umbrella, and there's no shade. Besides the big surfing beach, a lot of the little alcoves, the smaller beaches, all had palm trees or trees off to the side, so you could find natural shade, which is a big one for us because when you're walking 20 minutes to get to the beach, you don't want to lug a beach umbrella. Now, those beaches, you could rent beach umbrellas and you could pay for that and eat at the restaurants, but if there's natural shade, that's what we did.
Yeah, and it's easy. Just bring a towel, basically, or a larger blanket and set it down, and you're good to go.
Yes. So the beaches, I think, for us were some of the best we've ever been to.
Very big pro. The only small con with the beaches is that some of the smaller ones that are more swimmable that we enjoyed had quite a few stairs going down and up. You'll see, I'm sure we can put a little bit of a clip here as to how large the stairs were going up and down. So if you had mobility issues or knee issues, it could be something to consider.
Some of the beaches were really wavy and quite big waves. Yeah. Again, some days were calmer. Some days you really have to look at the tide charts before you go to the beach. But we did find a couple of beaches that were way calmer, where our son could swim and we weren't too worried about it. So you really, again, have to look at the different beaches and see what your options are. Do you want to go surfing, or do you just want to chill on the beach and have some lighter waves, right? So there were different options.
As a beach destination, it really can't be beat. The beaches are beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, the next pro that we're going to talk about is the food. Now, the Puerto Escondido is in the province or state of Oaxaca, which is world famous for its food, most of which, a lot of people have heard of the mole, and it is absolutely delicious.
It is.
The food of Puerto Escondido does not disappoint.
No.
You have the traditional Oaxacan food, the moles, some of the more unusual dishes that maybe you haven't seen. The Oaxacan cheese is like this long stringy cheese, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
But Puerto Escondido as well has a lot of more international cuisine. One of our favorite places there was a falafel place, El Sultan, I believe it was called.
Yeah, it was so good.
And we loved that place. We went there quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different types of foods you can have. There's decent pizza. There's pretty much everything you can think of. Yes. Even a decent Chinese place, which kind of surprised us.
Yeah.
But one thing to be aware of is, especially the Oaxacan food, is quite a bit different than the more kind of central Mexican food that you may be familiar with.
Yeah, our son was like, where's the El Pastor?
Yeah, I'm sure it exists there, but we could not find El Pastor place. We found the asado, just the cut meat in the tacos, but not so much the traditional El Pastor
And
place.
again, that's regional, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it really depends on different areas in Mexico, different cheese, different everything, right?
Yeah. But the food is a definite pro.
It really was good and cheap.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Very reasonable. The prices for the food there were actually kind of surprised us coming from Puerto Vallarta in that area. The food was a fair bit less.
Yeah, like even going to a major restaurant,
Yeah.
A dish would be 90
Yeah.
pesos, 80 or 90 pesos.
Yeah, and that was a nice restaurant.
And that was a nice restaurant. So we ate out quite a bit there just because it was so affordable, right? So cheap and good.
Yeah, food's a definite pro. Continuing on the food topic, another pro was the groceries. Now, there's a very large central market you can go to buy pretty much everything, meat, vegetables, you name it. But you might be thinking, oh, well, where do I get, like, say, my baguette or my traditional breads or whatnot that are more kind of, you know, American, Canadian, European or whatever that you may not be able to get necessarily? Well, you can. The Chedraui's chain of stores does have a location in Puerto Escondido. And we were quite impressed. It had a lot of the sort of things that you would want to get. We got sourdough bread there, baguettes, all of the sort of things that maybe might be more difficult to find in a smaller town. With the combination of the local market and the Chedraui, I pretty much think you can get most of the things you need in your day-to-day life.
Absolutely. Okay, so the next pro for us was there's tons of activities that you could do.
So many.
Yeah. So a big one was whale watching there. In fact, when we were on one of the beaches, we almost saw it. We saw the tip of his nose because it was around the corner by the rocks, was a whale breaching like right off the beach. So the whale watching there is fantastic. So you had whale watching, you could go kayaking, pretty much any water sport that you want to do, you can do there, right? You can see the bioluminescence at night. Now, we were watching our money pretty closely, so we didn't do any of the activities. But if you want to do activities, it's the place to go.
We did go snorkeling, though.
Yes.
And the snorkeling was right off the beach.
That's
and
right.
It was quite good.
That's right. So there's snorkeling, there's horseback riding, you name it. There's lots of activities there. So, I mean, you're not going to be bored.
Yeah, definite pro.
Yeah. Let's talk about safety for a minute. We found like all the different areas. We went to all the different sections in Puerto Escondido.
Which we'll talk about in a bit.
But we felt fairly safe. Like we had no problems.
No.
Now we're in Centro, and it's more of a local neighborhood, and we had no problems.
No.
I walked around a lot by myself, and I felt totally safe. So now again, we didn't walk around that much at night.
No.
But you know what? In general, I felt safe. The taxis were safe.
Yeah.
We didn't get ripped off at all.
That can't be said in all of Mexico either.
So we didn't get ripped off at all. They were super honest. So in general, I felt pretty safe. How about you?
Yeah. Well, even the taxis, like if they were very straightforward, they didn't like try and say one thing and then charge you another thing. It's more like if they didn't like we went to kind of an area a little bit far away for a nighttime dinner. And we're coming back, and the normal fare that we had paid almost everywhere in the city was 50 pesos. Yeah. And it was nighttime, and he's like, no, 100. I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. It's 50. He's like, man, look, I can get another fare right away. I'm like, okay.
He was pretty honest.
Yeah, he was straightforward. Right? He's like, no, it's 100. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So there wasn't any like, 50 and then change it to 100 later. It was nothing like that. It was very straightforward.
Yeah, they were pretty honest right up front. So safety-wise, I felt totally safe.
Yeah, it was good. So this next section, we're going to do something that we haven't really done exactly in some of our other videos, and that's a section where it's pros and cons. So for some people, they may consider it to be a pro, and for other people, they may consider it to be a con, just depending on what it is.
Yeah. So the first thing we're going to talk about is weather.
Oh, the weather.
Now, we didn't realize, we went in April, that it's like literally the hottest time of the year there, and it was brutally hot.
Yeah, humid.
And humid. You know, from our Airbnb to walk to the beach was only 15, 20 minutes. And we literally had to drink like one Gatorade drink to get to the beach and then a Gatorade drink to get back.
Yeah.
Like it was
hot.
really hot. That being said, the water was still pretty cool. So you cooled off. It was nice that way, right? But if you're not used to the heat, just be careful.
Yeah. However, if you want a hot destination, because some people go to a beach location, they're kind of like, it's not hot enough. It's only 20 Celsius. I want it to be 30 Celsius. Well, you'll get that in Puerto Escondido.
You will. And it's true. We've been to PV some years, depending on what month. Yeah. And, it's only like 26 degrees.
Or even 20 at nights. Yeah.
Or 20 at night. There, it was hot.
Yeah.
So just be forewarned. If you like that, great. If you don't do well with that kind of heat, just be aware of it.
Yeah, so pro or a con depending on what you want. So the next area that's kind of both a pro and a con are places to stay. Now, Puerto Escondido, as much of Mexico, has kind of experienced a boom in the last couple of years, especially with digital nomads. So a result of that is that a lot of the shorter term places to stay, like Airbnbs especially, have gone up significantly in price.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't mean that you can't find a hostel or a hotel that's probably $50 a night or something like that without much difficulty. Because that's for if you're landing and you want a shorter term place to stay, you can't find that. We like more like a month to 2 months or 3 months in a location, and that's more Airbnb. So that it has gone up a fair bit in price.
Yes.
Now, another thing to consider with that is that longer term is cheaper. And this is true everywhere in Mexico, but in Puerto Escondido especially, if you're dealing with a local landlord and you're doing a 6 month or year lease, you definitely can find things on the more affordable side of things. Now, one strange thing about Puerto Escondido, and a fair amount of other vloggers have mentioned this, is that the studio is kind of the most common type of accommodation that you can find, especially with Airbnbs or even short to medium term rentals.
Studio or a 1-bedroom.
Yeah. The reason for that is it's easier to cool with an air conditioner, right? Yeah. Especially a studio.
Yeah. And we didn't take that into consideration when we went. We got a 1-bedroom, but the living room there was no aircon in the living room and one window. It was so hot in the living room that we pretty much hid in our bedrooms. So studios are actually not a bad thing there because it cools down the whole place, where a 1-bedroom, a lot of times the living room does not have aircon. And trust me, in April or the hotter parts of the year, you want aircon in the whole room, right? Yeah. So a studio isn't a bad thing either. Consider that.
Yeah, unless you're a larger family and you have need of more space. Smaller can be better sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So a pro or a con, depending on how you see it. We didn't realize how spread out Puerto Escondido was. And again, when you look at a map, you've kind of got like 4 or 5 very distinct sections, different areas where you can stay. And we kind of watched a lot of videos on where we thought we would want to stay. And you really, really got to do your research on the different areas. And we're going to talk about that a little bit now. So the area we stayed in was Centro.
Yeah, Centro, it's much more local. And there are lower prices, especially for long-term rentals, because it's not a very touristy style area. There are some hotels and whatnot, but it's more just kind of Mexican style accommodations. So you can get very reasonable prices there.
Yeah. And we loved it because the big market was there. You can eat there. You can shop at the big market. Super active, right?
Yeah. It's a lot of stuff going on. Great restaurants.
Yeah.
Just like local barbecue chicken, local, just anything you want, really.
Yeah. And the Chedraui is there too. It was maybe 10 minutes from our house or Airbnb. So that was a bonus. And it's still walkable to the beaches. Yeah.
It's not beside the beach. You have to walk for a bit.
Yeah.
But it's, as long as you can walk 15, 20 minutes, it's not a big deal. Now, if you want beachside, there's really 3 beach areas. There's La Punta. Now, La Punta is very much a backpacker's young kind of hippie vibe. And
lots
if that's
of hostels,
your thing,
lots of cool restaurants. Even the roads are all like dirt roads or
there's
sand
some
roads.
Paved, but not really.
Yeah. It's all sand roads going to the beach. It was very, if you're young and you want to chill out and get some hippie vibes and do hostel life.
Yeah.
That's the place for you.
Yeah.
But very far to get to any other places because that's right on the end, right?
So then once again, you'd have to take a collectivo or a taxi to really go shopping or do anything around there. The next area, which is kind of to the north of that, is Playa Zicatela or Zicatela. And that's more kind of a traditional tourist neighborhood. They have the more kind of up, there's no big upscale hotels
No.
as of yet in
No.
Puerto Escondido, but there are some larger traveler hotels and hostels in that area.
And that's where you get the huge beach where all the surfing happens. You can watch surfing competitions. Swimmable, not
Sometimes.
so much, because it's pretty big waves. Like, that's the main surfing beach, but it's a beautiful beach, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Same with La Punta. They're both really nice.
Yeah.
But once again, they both have large waves, and it's something you have to be aware of, especially if you have small children or maybe you're not that strong a swimmer.
Absolutely.
Going further north, like we mentioned, there's Centro, which is kind of an area that's kind of to the north of the beaches. It's not on the beaches proper. And then the final area, which is right around the beaches we liked, is Rinconada.
Yeah.
And and then there's a whole strip of restaurants there.
Hostels, restaurants, and there's a new co-worker space there that just opened up. So it's kind of up and coming, and we really like that area. We probably stay there next time just because there is so many restaurants, and it's literally a 5-minute walk to all the prime swimming beaches, right? So that would be an area if you want to walk to the beach every day and be able to swim. That is the right area we'd recommend.
Yeah,
Great restaurants.
The con for that area, though, is that a lot of the places there are kind of larger house types, and the price would be that much higher.
Yes.
So it's just something to be aware of. And the con in relation to these areas is more so you need to do your research. Like if you ended up at La Punta and you're an older person and you want some quiet, you're probably not going to get it. It's going to be pretty lively at night. We were down there for a dinner. It was rocking.
Yeah. Well, and again, each little zone, which we didn't realize, is like a 10-minute drive. Yeah. It's not, we walked one time, right?
Yeah, it's far.
And almost died because it was so hot. So you got to take a collectivo, or you got to take a taxi, or rent a scooter. Lots of people do that as well, right? The scooter rentals are not cheap, though. No. So you really got to look into that.
And be careful with your licensing, too, because the police do checks occasionally. So it's something to be aware of.
So it's really spread out. So you've got to research all the areas. And so the final section is the cons, for us anyways. Okay.
Once again, just our opinions here. And hopefully this will be of some help to you thinking about retiring or living in Puerto Escondido. So the first con, and it's not a huge con because it is still doable, but it's that Puerto Escondido is somewhat hard to get to. And what we mean by that is there's no real direct flights. There may be, but at the time that we went, it just wasn't. Now that means that what you have to do is you have to fly into Mexico City and then fly from Mexico City to Puerto Escondido. There is also, I think, one direct flight to Oaxaca City, or you could take the bus, which I think is 8 hours.
Right.
So it's just something to be aware of. It's not a direct flight like most, Puerto Vallarta, Cancun. They have direct flights from most places in the United States and Canada. That is not the case for Puerto Escondido.
I mean, it was a quick flight, but you still have to fly through Mexico City, right?
Yeah, just something to be aware of.
Another con for us was the Wi-Fi was not great. Now, again, it really depends on where you're staying. Yeah. But like our Airbnb did not have great Wi-Fi, and we've heard a lot of other people say that the Wi-Fi is not great. Now, that being said, there are hostels now that have way better Wi-Fi. So if you're staying at a hostel, really check the reviews and see what people are saying about it. And there are lots of co-working spaces now, right? So if Wi-Fi is important to you, those are options as well. But, for everyday life, the Wi-Fi wasn't great.
No, and it was down a lot, like whole days where it was down. Yes. And I ended up going to a co-working space, which was reasonably priced, but still pricey when you're expecting to be able to have Wi-Fi.
Absolutely. And so this is the next con, was there were some power outages. Yeah. And we were in Centro area, and I think we had one or two, but when it's really hot and your aircon is not working, you're dying, right? So keep that in mind. And I think La Punta area, there were quite a bit power outages. So again, it really depends on the neighborhood as well. But so between Wi-Fi and power outages, but again, that's part of the charm. You're hanging out on a beach, right?
Yeah, it's not a major metropolitan center. This is a smaller beach town.
Exactly.
That you just need to be able to live with these things.
Yeah.
We're getting towards the end here of the cons, and this is something that's quite common throughout a lot of Mexico, but in Puerto Escondido especially, it's mostly cash. Yeah. Maybe some of the bigger restaurants and hotels, you might be able to use your card, but it's almost exclusively a cash economy. I didn't even see signs or machines in a lot of the places.
No.
There were some,
Yeah.
but not many.
Yeah, some of the bigger chain restaurants took credit card and stuff, but I mean, which was fine. We always had cash anyways.
Yeah.
And there's ATMs. That was not an issue
not an
there.
issue at all.
Yeah, so we just ended up just taking out money. And,
Yeah, you take out your pesos and you're fine. You got your pesos for the week.
Yeah, and you're not carrying around a lot. Remember, like going out to eat is pretty cheap, right? So we had no issues with that. But we're just saying, you know, it's not like Puerto Vallarta or Cancun where you can probably pay credit card for everything. Yeah. At most of the restaurants, it was still cash. But
you know, we like our points too, but it's just one of those situations where you're probably
just be aware of it. And it wasn't a con for us; we didn't care.
Yeah.
But if you want to pay with your credit card everywhere, it's just not going to happen. So just something to know.
Our final con is kind of related back to where we were talking about groceries and whatnot, but this is more on the side of furniture and things you may need to buy, especially if you're living long term. There's no big box stores aside from Chedraui.
Yes.
In Puerto Escondido. Now, by that, what we mean is Walmart, Costco, Sam's Club, things along those lines. They just don't have it. It's a smaller beach town.
Now, that being said, the Chedraui literally had everything. You could buy your bikes there. If you needed a fan for your apartment, air humidifier, like all that kind of stuff, you could get there. TVs. Yeah. It was really well stocked. So,
I don't think they had larger furniture, but they still had electronics and things along those lines.
Beach chairs and umbrellas. Yeah. They had all that kind of stuff, right? So, I mean, it was really well stocked.
Yeah, it was still quite good. But if you're looking for a Walmart and a Costco and you're expecting to have those brands, just know that those don't exist.
Now, it wasn't really a con for us. Like we had no problems with that. But if you're looking specifically for a Walmart, it's not there. So again, it could be a pro or a con. We thought it was a pro. We didn't mind at all. Yeah. So
it's one of those that you just have to be able to adapt a bit if you're living in, especially in a smaller beach town in Mexico. Yeah. You know what? It's just something you have to deal with. Yeah.
And that's part of the charm, right? Yeah. So, I mean, looking back on Puerto Escondido, we definitely want to go back.
Yeah. Would we live or retire there long term? We don't know. Probably not.
Probably not. It was a bit small for us and really spread out. We found that a little annoying to have to... We didn't realize when we got there how spread out it was, but it really is. That being said, your area is very walkable, right?
Yeah, very much. It's like a little neighborhood, right?
Yeah. So it was just like 5 different big neighborhoods, right? So
we like things to be walkable. Ultimately, we don't want to have a vehicle of any sort, and we want to be able to go where we have to go. We will take cabs now and then. That's fine.
Absolutely.
But when you want to go from one part of town to the other, and it's a 15-20 minute cab ride in a small surf town, that's pretty far.
Now, don't get me wrong. Our son Cole loved taking the collectivo right to the different areas. Yeah. But again, be aware. Like around dinner time, everybody is taking the collectivo. Yeah. You'd have people hanging out,
they're packed.
Right? They're packed at around dinner or coming back, right? Yeah. So again, you would have to take a taxi. That's what we did. We just saw how busy they were, and we're like, no, we're going to take a cab, right? So, that kind of thing. But that's the charm of the town, right?
Yeah. It's a very charming place.
Yes. Oh, one other thing before I forget. Very young demographic and a lot of Europeans there. This leads to one more con or
maybe pro. Depends on you.
Depends on you. There were lots of topless
sunbathers
on the beach. And we had to laugh because our young son was a little distracted. But we heard a lot of people talking to their kids about it, especially American or Canadian people who were there, who were not used to seeing that. Now, we got used to it right away. We didn't care. But if that's an issue for you, just be aware that there were a lot of Europeans, younger Europeans, who were going topless. We didn't care, but if you have issues with it,
just be aware of it.
Just be aware of it. So, all in all, we loved Puerto Escondido.
Yeah, it was very nice, especially in retrospect. At the time, we had some problems dealing with the heat because it was real hot.
Yes.
But we want to go back, and we really encourage you to go check it out. It might be for you. The cost of living there is quite low.
Yeah.
Especially long term. The food's great, and it's just a very relaxed vibe. So it's the sort of place I think you need to go and check it out. Do your research on the neighborhoods. Make sure you know where you want to stay.
Yeah.
And when you're there, go check the different neighborhoods out.
We were saying it feels like the new Tulum.
Yeah, it
in
does.
a way. It's just a really young, hostile, younger demographic, lots of Europeans, lots of backpackers, very international.
Yes.
And it was kind of nice.
Yeah.
And if you love good food and good beaches, it's the place for you. So we just say, go, try it out and see what you think.
Well, we hope today that this has helped you out and maybe it gave you a few ideas. Ultimately, go to Puerto Escondido and see what you think.
Yeah.
So for today, stay safe and happy travels.
Happy travels.